Okay, so today we're going to talk about angles and where they lie on a graph. And I'm going to start here and just use a small piece of this and then go into like what angles are in general and so on and so forth. So there's some information from your past that you need to remember when we talk about angles. Information from your past that you need to know is that this is quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, and quadrant 4, and that we use Roman numerals to denote that. Okay, it works the same with radians, but you've never seen radians before. We'll talk about those later. So, we're going to talk about this word called reference angles. And reference angles, are what the angle is called based on its positioning next to the x-axis. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and I'm going to draw these angles and make sure you understand where they get drawn. And then we'll talk about what a reference angle is. Now, we're working off of worksheets that you were not given before we left school. So these are all trig worksheets. This is attached to the assignment in Google Classroom. You are more than welcome to print this if you have access to a printer. You are more than welcome to put it on Kami and draw on Kami if you have something that's a touch screen, or you can take handwritten notes. Totally fine. So right now I'm working on just the degree side. So you would go and draw this if you were drawing by hand, and you would write the number 1 and the 120. So your choice, you're drawing by hand, you're printing out, or you're working on Kami. Okay. So the first thing we need to know is that at my x-axis, this is 0 degrees, and we move in a counterclockwise direction. So this is 90, this is 180, this is 270, this is 360, and it keeps going around and around and around. Okay, so the next one would be 9 times 5 is 450. Okay. So, in order for us to get 120, I know it's not in here because 120 is bigger than 90. Okay, so I know it's not in this one. I know that it doesn't go as far as here because I know that it's less than 180. So, where would 120 lie in there? Is it about halfway? Is it a little closer to the 90? Is it a little closer to the 80? What do we think? And you should get something like this. Okay, so I'm going to go through and I'm going to keep drawing that. For me, I actually use what is called a reference angle to help me draw. So I know that this is 60 away. I know you don't know what a reference angle is. We'll talk about it shortly. So if I was going to go negative, I switch this. So this is 0, negative 90, negative 180, negative 270, negative 360, and so on and so forth. So notice that that negative 135 is not going to land here. It's going to go farther than that. It's not going to go as far as the 180. We're not quite there yet. It's going to land somewhere in between. Okay. Notice that I like to draw this little piece with an arrow there. That becomes important later on. And then a lot of teachers like to draw the bottom of it, like that starting side, the initial side. Whereas some teachers don't, they just draw that last piece. So let's go again. Where's 60? 0, 90. It's going to land somewhere in here. I don't need to keep labeling. Lands about here, a little closer to the 90. And then I would draw that angle like that. So then where's 300? Well, 0, 90, 180, 270, 360. So it's going to go all the way around. Here, here, here. And it's going to make it somewhere in that last piece, but not all the way to that end part. So we're going to draw it about there. Because it's going to be closer to the 270 than it is to that 360. Okay, how do I know that? Me personally, I know that 300 is 60 away from 360. And so I know that this little leftover piece is 30. That's how I do it. Like I'm like, oh, this is 60, this is 30. Negative 135, what I do is 90 to get to 35 is going to give me 45. So that leaves 45 over there because each piece is 90. Here I know it's 60 and 30. Notice that 60 and the 30 come up a lot. The 45 and the 45, they come up a lot. Okay, that's because you've learned about some triangles that are called 30, 60, 90 triangles, or 40, 40, 45, 45, 90 triangles. Okay, those are important triangles. They make important angles. So let's go again. 0, negative 90, negative 180, negative 270. Okay, so notice I stopped there because I know it doesn't go as far as 270. Note that I spin in the opposite direction this time. And to get from 80 to 240, the 180 to the 240, I have the 20 to get to 100 and then the extra 40. So this is a 60-degree angle. This is a 30-degree angle. Okay. Still going. So 0, 90, 180, 270, 360, 450. Notice that I'm multiplying by 9. So I'm like 9 times 1 is 9, 9 times 2 is 18, 9 times 3 is 270, 9 times 4 is 360, 9 times 5 is 45, 9 times 6 is 50. 4. 9 times 7 is 63. And so I land somewhere in between these two. Where do I land in between those two? Well, I land 40 away from here. So if I was going to draw my swirl this time, watch my swirl. It went all the way around and then hit. So that's why that swirl piece is important, because you need it on those 580 angles. Okay. So